Thanks, everybody. This is Closers Club. We do this every Wednesday, 10 a.m. East Coast, 7 a.m. Pacific time. If you can hear, I'm always doing the math in my head, so I don't want to screw that up. Right? Guaranteed to be the best 90 minutes of your week or your money back. This is Closers Club. Again, we do this every Wednesday, and we've got our co-host Michael Banovic and Suzanne Fuquay today, our amazing Coffee Club Closer Clubhouse co-host. What's going on, guys?
Good morning.
Good morning. Good
it's
morning.
A beautiful morning.
Morning.
Suzanne, good morning.
I'm at the airport, getting ready to board to go to San Francisco.
Again, everybody, welcome. Good morning. I want to introduce our amazing guest today. We've got Michael LaFido. Michael LaFido, for those that don't know, is the luxury listing specialist. He's been building a massive luxury business out of the Naperville, Chicagoland market. I'll let him tell about some of his recent wins, but he just closed on some massive deals. He's the real estate agent to the stars. He's had some listings for some top pro athletes. At one point, he even took a shot at Michael Jordan's house, and he's just developed an amazing program for teaching agents how to basically market and sell high-end and luxury homes. And so we'll get into that in earnest, but as we always do here on Closers Club, we like to really get into the mindset. We like to really get into the backstory on what makes someone like a Michael LaFido tick. Michael, good morning. I know you've been on a Closers Club here and there, and you've checked us out. But again, this is a 90-minute show. We do this every Wednesday, and again, we really like to get into the mindset stuff of what makes people successful, what makes people do what they do. You're obviously clearly driven. You have a mission and to sort of touch lives and teach agents how to think higher about themselves and elevate. And you just happen to use sort of luxury real estate sales as your vehicle. But again, take us back a little bit before we get into all that stuff, Michael. Maybe just, I always like to open the show with this one question. What's your story?
Yeah. So thanks for the opportunity. Can you hear me okay, Brian?
Yep. Go ahead.
Perfect. So I graduated college, and I was a high school physical education teacher, and I got my real estate license my second year teaching. So I was a part-time real estate agent from 1998 to 2010. And during that journey, I obviously discovered marketing and sales and was pretty successful as a part-time agent. And so in 2010, I broke away from being a teacher and just focused on selling real estate. But along that journey, I had a bunch of people ask me to teach them how was I able to be so successful as a part-time agent. So I, if you will, launched my speaking and training back in 2008 to a Women's Council Realtors event. It was my first event I ever spoke at. And from that point, we did a lot of trainings for agents on marketing.
Okay, hold on. You're getting way too ahead of the curve here. I want to go back because I know a little bit about your backstory. I want to go back to like little Michael LaFido, like 9 years old, 10 years old. Like, where'd you grow up? What were you into? Were you playing sports? Were you playing the drums? Like, what were you doing as a little kid? And then kind of like, how'd you get into real estate? Like, take me back a little further.
Yeah. So, parents got divorced when I was about 8 years old. So I moved out of my home that I grew up in and moved in with my mom and my stepfather, and played sports, right? My avenue was, video game and sports, like a lot of kids. And so played high school football, which I think is really the foundation of my success in my business today, was the lessons I learned on and off the field, working with others, discipline, being coachable, working through adversity. So I was very fortunate to be part of a great high school football program.
Did your parents have money? Illinois. What describe to me kind of your living situation? Public school, private school.
Yeah, public school came. We were blue collar. We were, if you will, middle class all day. Hardly went on any vacations. Eating out was a luxury.
Right.
And
Jake's Pizza Friday night.
Friday night,
around the jukebox.
I'll never forget. I'll never forget one time went to dinner with my mom and my stepdad, and I ordered a steak, and my stepdad basically grilled me, and I had to have a hamburger. I couldn't have a steak, and it's kind of an ongoing joke now when we go out, because my fifth grader, he likes steak, and I tell him, anytime you want to order a steak, Vince, you can, because I remember.
It's very symbolic of your coaching, by the way, if you think about it, right? Like, most real estate agents are out settling for hamburgers when they could actually be selling steaks if they only knew how to get into that, right?
Yeah. So, kind of grew up in a poor mindset family. In other words, my stepfather, he hung out with people that were, I don't want to say below, but were struggling and underachievers as well. And I always, even going back 20 years ago, I would say, 30 years ago, I knew he did that because that made him feel better about himself. Like, hey, I'm not doing that bad because I'm doing better than Jerry or whoever it might be. And so one of the things I always tell people, Brian, is you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? If you hang out with 9 top producers, you're bound to be the 10th. Well, I grew up with my stepfather who hung out with underachievers because he felt like he was, successful, which I spotted that early on, and that's where athletics, I know you played basketball and you talk about through travel basketball, how, you challenge yourself and it made you a better athlete. Well, same thing. I mean, through sports, when I was in the weight room, I didn't lift with the other defensive backs. I lifted with the linebackers, the guys that were bigger, stronger than me, because they pushed me. And that same mindset, that same philosophy is true in business.
It's true in life too. I mean, anything we do, if you surround yourself with people doing it at a higher level, you're just going to naturally elevate. I mean, it's really that simple. So, and that's what I love about, what you do with your coaching and training, but I don't want to get into it too much yet. And again, I want to leave a lot of time today for Q&A. So typically the way, this format goes is we'll do about, 30 minutes of interview, then we'll do about 20, 30 minutes of chit chat with the co-hosts and some of the other leaders. And then we're going to get into a lot of Q&A with the audience today. So again, everybody, thanks again. This is Closers Club. We do this every Wednesday. We got Michael LaFido, luxury listing specialist. So you're in Naperville. You grew up in Naperville, or you grew up in just the west suburbs of Chicago, or where exactly were you?
Yeah, I grew up in Wheaton, which is the town next to Naperville.
Wheaton, Warrenville.
Yeah, it's about 25 miles. 25 miles directly west of Chicago, basically.
Yeah. And so here you are, just a scrappy blue collar kid. Is this where you kind of got your mantra, your famous mantra, prove them wrong? Or, here you were kind of a undersized D-back, scrappy kid playing with a bunch of west suburb Chicago ballers. Is that where you got that mindset? Or?
Yeah, I felt like I always had to prove myself, not only not to me necessarily, but to others, including, one of my best friends growing up got a football scholarship, and I always felt like I had to prove myself to him. I went the scrappy way, right? Most people, they get scholarship offers. I didn't, so I had to play junior college football. I mean, they've made documentaries on, they call it Last Chance University, where a lot of these junior college players are gifted. They're scholarship athletes, but they have poor grades. Well, I had good grades, but I didn't have any scholarship offers, so that was my vehicle to continue to play.
Right. You earned it. You weren't given anything in sports.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about prospecting and lead gen, here's what happened. So I played junior college football my second year, my sophomore year in college. I wasn't getting any looks because I never started one junior college game, not one. And so when most athletes get recruited, Brian, I had to sell my service. So I was creating highlight tapes, sending packages, i.e. like pre-listing packages, to colleges and reverse prospecting. I was calling them saying, hey, my name is Michael LaFido. I played at college at DuPage, and I'm going to send you a highlight tape. I was reverse prospecting at the time.
Yeah, and this is the late 90s, right? I mean, there's no internet. There was no blue chip websites. There was, I think when I was playing basketball, there was a guy who'd put out a mailing, like a pamphlet once a quarter on the top ranked high school players, David Kaplan,
Yeah.
City Round Ball Review. I mean, that was it. If you weren't in his camp or going to ABCD blue chips in New York, no one knew you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, very similar, right? So you're right. This would have been 94, the fall of 94. There was no internet. There was no, you sent highlight tapes.
Yeah.
And literally, I'm sending highlight tapes. One of them, like literally, I had other guys that were being recruited, and they would tell me, "Hey, this school needs a defensive back." This guy, they were helping me out and so that's how Northern Michigan discovered me. And I got the call. I'll never forget, on my home landline in the kitchen, and I thought they were going to say thanks, but no thanks, like everybody else who returned the call, which by the way most didn't. And he said, "We're going to offer you a visit." And I was like a kid in the candy store. I was so excited. I went up there, and they ended up offering me a scholarship. And even in my Northern Michigan days, Brian, they would travel 8 defensive backs. There's 4 that play at any given time for those that know football, but they would go 2 deep at every position. So 8 defensive backs traveled. I was probably the 6th best athlete out of the 8, but I never got pulled in one snap in college ball. I never got benched because I was smart. I had great work ethic. I was prepared, and that prepared me for real estate.
Yeah, that's huge. I love that. Yeah, I mean, and that is very emblematic of your mindset today. And I'm going to jump ahead to the sort of the punchline, but I don't want to get into that yet because we're going to build towards this. But Michael just closed on a fairly large property in Chicago. Do you want to tell everyone about that deal you just put on the books?
Well, we haven't closed on it yet. We're under contract,
okay.
Which was the first step of the battle. We just got past the inspection, but I'm actually releasing a podcast this week on this, Brian, but it's a $7.5 million listing. It was the backdrop for the TV show Empire. Architectural Digest named this the most beautiful home for sale in Illinois. And I just I'm releasing a podcast this week on how I got the listing opportunity, how I closed them, how I kept the client. Next month will be 6 years. Now, I don't know about you, Brian, but most agents are sick of the sellers after 6 weeks, let alone 6 months. 6 years I've retained this listing. And you might say 6 years, that's a long time. Yes. Last year in Illinois, over the last year, there's been only 3 sales of $7 million and above, single family. And 2 were in the North Shore, where you grew up, and 1 was in Hinsdale. So when you take on a listing that's $7 million and above in Chicagoland, it's either going to sell in the first 30, 60, 90 days, or it could take 6 years to sell.
Yeah. And again, I want to build up to that because, you can't keep a good coach down. You can tell Michael wants to just get into telling everyone how he does it. But I want to kind of build to that because again, here's this, let's take you back. Here's this guy, grows up in the west suburbs of Chicago, scrappy blue collar kid, no business being on a football field, no business playing college football. And then of course you graduated college and you were right into luxury sales, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't. So
talk about that.
When you talk about graduating college, there's even more to that story. I mean, I got a 19 on my ACT, Brian, which isn't good. And I got an 18 my second time.
No,
so nothing ever came easy for me, especially school. And so
you didn't just graduate. You didn't go to the pros, right? So you didn't graduate and go right into selling $1 million houses, huh?
No.
What'd you do?
I barely graduated. That's
okay.
the thing. So in college, 2 things. So first off, we're in a physical education class at Northern Michigan, and the student comes in all dressed in cap and gown, and me kind of being funny, smart aleck, whatever. I'm like, "Oh, hey, congratulations!" Everybody starts laughing, and she goes, "Is there a Michael LaFido here?" And everybody's looking around. I'm like, "Yeah." So she goes, "Would you stand?" Well, long story short, I got nominated, and somebody nominated me. I was in the National Honor Society at Northern Michigan, and I got a 19 in my ACT. My people in my class were laughing, like, "Is this a joke? Like, how the hell?" But I did a lot of volunteer work and stuff up there. But then when at Northern Michigan, you had to take a written essay as part of your exit strategy. In other words, they wanted to make sure you could write an essay. And I failed it the first time. I had to get a tutor just to graduate at Northern Michigan, even though I was National Honor Society, and I could barely write a 5-paragraph essay, introduction, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion paragraph. I was so poor at writing. And so I share that with you because nothing has ever come easy. So when I graduated and I got my real estate license, I sold 1 home in my first year, Brian. And that was, somebody threw me a bone. I don't know if you remember the first property you ever sold, but this was a student of mine's dad. He knew I got my real estate license. I played basketball with him at Wednesday night, old man league, if you will. Yeah. And he threw me a $80,000 condo rental that he had just to get me started. I went on that first listing appointment. I never forget. I did about 10% of the talking. My mentor did about 90% of the talking. And I remember when they were asking me what the fee is, I was getting nervous. And that was my first listing ever. It was a little $80,000 1-bedroom condo.
Now, were you full-time real estate, or were you doing something on the side? Weren't you teaching also, or what were you doing on the side?
Yeah. I was full-time high school teacher, and so I was selling real estate after 3:30 p.m. on nights and weekends, and I was selling real estate part-time for my first 10 years in real estate, and my
part-time for your first 10 years. I always say, people always go especially when I, invite people to come do real estate with us, they'll go, well, is it okay if I have another job? And I always say, well, look, every real estate agent's part-time until they can afford to be full-time, right?
Yeah, I tell agents all the time, you could be part-time and be successful. Eventually, at some point, of course, whether it be a certain dollar amount you want to make or whatever it might be, at some point you might want to pull the plug on your other job. Like there's a guy in my team right now that works at Apple to make both ends meet. Hopefully he'll get to a point where he can make enough where he can cut the plug from Apple and focus full-time on real estate. But, my story was I come from blue collar. My family said, don't ever get out of teaching. The pension, you're nuts. And you got to, please everybody. You got to do what's best for you and what you're passionate about and happy doing.
Well, the reason why that's so important, and again, I know this audience real well. These are a lot of these folks are partners of mine or friends of mine, or in our EXP organization or the bculhane groups at EXP organization, and I know a lot of folks in this audience specifically suffer from that very dilemma. The dilemma of, well, I got to put food on the table. And I got this sort of steady Eddie, full-time gig. And by full-time, I mean, it takes up all of your time. Let's be honest, it's almost impossible to serve a full-time business, job, career, whatever, and do something else on the side. It really is impossible. And here's why it's impossible. Because you're confusing the universe. The universe wants to deliver what you're looking for. And that's how everything's set up. That's how your brain is set up. We talk a lot about your reticular activation system and that bundle of nerves at the base of your brain and your spinal column. And, so I use this metaphor. Imagine if we're sitting around the campfire and Michael goes, I'm hungry. And then, John Lincoln goes, well, let's go hunt something. And then, Christy Culhane's like, great, let's hunt rabbits. And then Matt Culhane's like, no, let's hunt squirrels. And then Marissa's like, let's hunt deer. And then Cody's like, no, let's hunt bear. And I'm like, let's go hunt them all. Okay, let's go hunt all 5 animals at once. Like how many animals are we going to bring home to the tribe if we set out with no plan, no target, just kind of this loose, ambiguous, goal of catching some sort of food, right? The universe isn't going to. Now, if we all sat down and said, we're going to hunt deer, we're going to get after that deer. And then someone goes, I know where deer tracks are. And someone goes, I smelled deer poop the other day. And I go, I saw a bunch of deers in this field, all that. So the universe will conspire with your brain to deliver you those clues to allow you to get what you want to get. So if it works for hunting, why would it work for career choosing? Right? If you're sitting there going, well, I got to put food on the table. So you're operating out of fear and scarcity, first of all. So you're sitting there going, well, I got to put food on the table. So I can't give up this $50,000 a year job to potentially build a business that'll put $50,000 a month into my wealth coffers, right? Or be a full-time real estate agent and close a commission that could be 20, 30 grand in one pop that would take you a couple hours a week to accomplish. And here you are working 40, 50 hours a week to get nowhere, to tread water, to put food on the table. So anyways, let's keep going. Talk us through how you overcame that part-time, full-time.
By the way, I like that hunting story you just shared. It's so true. Like, that talks about having a crystal clear mission and having clarity as well, because real estate agents, they have shiny object syndrome, right? I mean, there's so many Facebook groups, there's so many lead gen, there's so much, but you need to be crystal clear on your business plan and your lead gen and your unique value proposition. Why should somebody hire you? And what your social media branding, and is everything consistent? Like, I think you were spot on. That's a great analogy, and I'll use that. That was really good, Brian.
Yeah, and it works with sales. I mean, think about being a real estate agent, but you're trying to convince a client to list with you, and you're like, yeah, but I can't do 9 to 5, and I can't do Saturday mornings, and I can't do Sunday evenings, and so hopefully those buyers call me during these 1 hour windows a day to show your house. But please pick me as your listing agent. Even though I'm barely doing real estate. But yeah, all right. So let's speed the story up a little bit here. So you're doing part-time real estate. When did you start to sort of realize that you wanted to be into the luxury space? Like, take me through that.
Yeah, so I had a coach and a mentor. I was a big follower of Dan Kennedy and Bill Glazier, and they talked a lot about marketing to the affluent. If Ace Hardware or Home Depot, if all they do is sell nuts and bolts, could they keep the doors open? Well, probably not. So what do? They sell these big, massive generators. They sell these big sheds. They call them slack adjusters. These big items where there's much larger margins, and they can be profitable quicker by selling these big slack adjusters. Well, no different than real estate. If you look at the homes that you represent or I represent or that I've sold, I use the term portfolio. It's like if you won the lottery, a big lotto winner, your financial advisor would tell you to diversify your portfolio. They'd say have some long-term investments, short-term, some high risk, low risk. They talk about diversification. Well, most real estate agents, Brian, they don't diversify their portfolio. They either focus on the entry level or the average price point, and so my mentor talked about how go after those upper price points. I don't care if you're selling nuts and bolts or selling women's handbags or you're a roofer or whatever you do, market to the affluent. And so he planted those seeds. But I'm selling real estate. My database, my sphere. Again, I don't come from blue collar. I come from blue collar. I don't come from wealth. So a lot of my database, most of my database was the average price point. And so how do you break into luxury as a part-time real estate agent when you don't have that huge database of people that come from wealth?
Right. Well, and that's a big moment, because you think about, and did you grow up around wealthy people, or were all your friends kind of in the similar space as your family, economically? Like, had you seen wealthy? Have you grown up around wealthy people, or was this kind of a new ground for you?
No, I did not really have any wealthy friends.
Okay. Because I think that's a big part of a lot of what we talk about in here is sort of putting yourself into positions where you can actually see and experience and take. We had Ryan Secco on, who runs Cardone Capital for Grant, and he talked about how if you want to eventually buy a private jet, you better start figuring out ways to get on private jets, or Google YouTube videos of being on a private jet, and start to look at the leather and smell the interior, and start to metaphysically try these things on for size. And so here you were being told, hey, market to luxury people, and you really hadn't to the affluent, and you really didn't even, you didn't probably know that many affluent people, did you?
Well, for me, the fastest way to bridge that gap, even for anybody listening today, would be probably prospecting and lead generation. And so for me, that was canceled and expired listings and targeting the higher price points. That was one thing I did. And that was the first thing I did. But I didn't get a ton of traction there. And I'll tell you the second thing I did, but I'm sure you want to talk about that first.
Yes.
So, there's Vulcan, there's RedX, there's various list scrub providers out there where you can grab canceled and expired listings or for sale by owners in your local market. And so for me, I targeted the upper price points, and I was a good marketer. I was not just good on the phone, but I was good at direct mail. In other words, I would send physical mail to canceled and expired. So maybe after a Keller Williams Bold class got released, they might get 60 calls, over the course of a week from an agent that wanted to list their home, but they might have got 6 to 10 mailers, and that's probably high. They probably got 6 mailers, and 4 or 5 of them were terrible. They were just, hey, I want to list your home. So for me, I was able to create a niche and carve out the upper price points initially to canceled and expireds.
Oh, that's awesome. Because again, I mean, there's a lot of people in this audience that are sitting here thinking the same thoughts that you were thinking, 15 years ago or whatever this was. Real quick, I want to do a little housekeeping for this room. Obviously, Closers Club, we do this every Wednesday, 7 a.m. West Coast, 10 a.m. East Coast. But what I want to also throw out there is we've got a really exciting week next week. So Michael is actually going to be in Arizona. So he's coming out for an event, and then he's going to be doing some special training on Friday, the 24th here in Scottsdale. So we've got a nice room secured over at Capitol Grill. We're going to be doing a nice little lunch. And so if there's any agents that are in Arizona or want to get to Arizona by next Friday, reach out to me or Michael Banovic or Suzanne or somebody who's a moderator on the stage here today, and we'll get you that information. But it's going to be a small, exclusive group, maybe no more than 40, 50 people. And we're going to have an awesome couple hours of just getting some really great luxury listing nuggets from Michael LaFido himself. I've actually had the opportunity to be in 2 or 3 of Michael's trainings. He does an amazing boot camp experience and by the way, so I just want to run through some notes here on you. Luxury listing specialist is also a designation. So Michael also has a designation program called LUXE. So you can actually get designated as a luxury, and it's actually certified now and recognized as a continuing education. In how many states?
We're in 3 states right now: Florida, Texas, and Georgia. But hopefully, we're going to be Illinois and maybe Missouri and maybe Arizona.
You go after the big football states first, clearly. So it gets you out to Arizona. And so he has a luxury certification. He also has a consulting business. He's helped me with multiple $1 million listings that we had. He takes a small percentage to help you. He actually helped us get the listing. Doesn't matter what state you're in. So if you've got a big listing presentation coming up and you need some ammo, I'm telling you, there's nobody better than Michael LaFido to help get you prepped, get you some great language, some great phraseology and ways that you can sort of get inside the mindset of the seller. I mean, he's got disc profiles. He's got all kinds of really cool ways to sort of to market yourself, before and after packages. I mean, some really cool stuff. And again, I've sat through at least 2 or 3 of your boot camps. It's a 2-day experience. You do a full day of classroom, and then you do a second day, which is half classroom, half field trip. You go out and look at a couple multi-million-dollar homes. You get to do some real field work. And I've taken other luxury certification programs, and they're online classes. I mean, I literally click. Here's your certificate. Okay. I didn't learn a thing. I didn't memorize. I didn't commit anything to memory. I go do 1-2-day boot camp with LaFido, and I came home and I was like, I can freaking do this. I can be a luxury agent. This is not hard. So, I mean, it helped me. I mean, this was a couple of years ago. And when we first went on our first boot camp, and it was me and Darren James and Valerie Vandesilver. And, I met some really amazing people at that event. And so again, reach out to Michael. How can somebody get a hold of all this information, Michael?
Yeah, I mean, luxurylistingspecialist.com. They can find out all the information about the designation. My contact information's on there, luxurylistingspecialist.com. The one thing, thank you for that, by the way, Brian. The one thing I would add is we don't have any prerequisites. In other words, if you're a newer agent, you're just starting out, or you never have sold a luxury home, you can get certified in luxury. And I share that with you, Brian, because when we launched this 5 years ago, that was something that I struggled with. Do I have hey, you have to sell $2 million homes or whatever the requirement was going to be, or do I open it up to everybody? And I was always, it came down to what is best for the consumer. I wanted the consumer to have a great experience with a licensed realtor so that it didn't hurt our industry. And so what happens is a lot of these multi-million-dollar properties, the homeowners list with somebody they golf with at the country club, or the wife plays tennis with. And if that agent doesn't have the tools and the resources to be successful, it gives all of us a bad look. So no previous luxury sales are required. They can go to luxurylistingspecialist.com for more information.
Yeah, and that is not a small point, because, it's kind of the chicken or the egg syndrome. Here's these agents and they want to get into the luxury space to sell a big ticket house, right? You're going to work my dad used to say, if you're going to sell something expensive, you're going to work just as hard selling a $50,000, double wide as you will a $5 million home. And so, how do you get into that space? Well, you got to get certified. Oh, but in order to get certified, you have to have already sold a multi-million-dollar home, so it's kind of like this, you get caught in this conundrum where you almost have to randomly sell a multi-million-dollar home in order to qualify for a luxury listing certification program. So that's what's so great about your program is it's sort of it's built for the everyman, the every woman, right? The average agent who wants to increase their price point. And so how do you define high end versus luxury, by the way?
Great question. So every brokerage, every brand has different definitions, but for our course, we really believe that an agent needs to know their local numbers, and particularly they need to know the average sale price for the market they serve, or markets, right? The average sale price in North Scottsdale might be different than it is in South Phoenix, or particular region, or maybe the average sale price is different for townhouse or condos versus single family, even within the same community. But you really need to know what the average sale price is. So for this example, let's just say $350. If the average sale price is $350, we define a high-end home for that market as a home that is 2 times that average sale price. So in this case, 700 and above, 350 times 2, 700. And we define luxury. A luxury home price of a home is times 3 that average sale price. So 350 times 3, so about $1,050,000 and above. And again, most people, it's all relative. Luxury is all relative, whether you be in Crown Point, Indiana, where the average sale price is $100,000, or whether you be in Silicon Valley, where the average sale price is $2 million. That definition times 2 for high end and times 3 for luxury is a lot more, I think, consistent and accurate than many brands' default, which is $1 million above.
No question. Yeah, that's great information, because again, people are probably sitting there scratching their heads going, well, what's luxury? $10 million, $5 million. It's really whatever it's, would you say high end is 2 times your average price point, and luxury is 3 times?
Yes, correct.
So there you go. Right. That's a great little tidbit. So all right, let's do this. And again, I'm going to start opening this up for questions here in about 2 minutes, but so give me some of your stats. Like, talk me, how many homes have you sold? How long you been in real estate, total volume, or, give me some stats.
Yeah, so I've been selling real estate since 2000. The first 10 years were part-time. As I mentioned, I was a teacher from 2000 to 2010. And over the last 11 years, have focused on both selling initially. Now I'm focused more on the consulting training side. But part of what makes my story as a speaker trainer resonate with listeners like today is I practice what I preach, right? I'm not one of these speakers, trainers, coaches that isn't in the trenches overcoming objections like the agents are today. So at any given time, I have, right now, I think I have 21 or 2 listings. I think out of those 21 or 22, 12 or 13 are above $1 million in Chicagoland. it works out that luxury is about $1 million, $1.50 and above. That's how, based on the average sale price, around 350-ish or so. So we carry anything from, 10 million, 7 million. We have, multiple $3 million listings. And I have one $3.2 million listing right now, Brian, that he was a former Office Max CEO, and he was interviewing me and two other agents. And this is right when I made the switch over to EXP, and I wasn't officially with EXP at the time. And he was grilling me about my old company. And at the time, he thought I was going to be with them, right? And I said to him, I said, Ravi, I have to let you know, in good conscience, I got to let you know, I am going to be switching real estate companies. So, I had nothing about print collateral, about EXP, but he had done his due diligence on me. He had done his research. There's enough stuff online that he didn't care who I was with. He hired the agent versus the brand. And I want to share that with you because I know sometimes agents think they got to be with a certain brand or be licensed for X amount of years before they sell luxury. And that's not true.
That's right. That's huge. Yeah, no, I love that. So let's do this. Again, and what are some of your trophy? Let's talk highlight reel. What are some of your trophy listings that you've closed over the years?
Yeah, we've set 5 record sales over the past 14 months. We had the highest sale ever in Naperville, Illinois. Sold for 4.75. Literally on that particular property, Brian, when I took the listing, there was a local agent that I didn't know. He sent me an email out of the blue and said, this is not the North Shore. You'll never sell it. Not going to happen. Oh, by the way, if you're having a broker open, let me know. I'd love to come. Like literally, it said basically that. And I'm like, who the F is this guy? So you talk about prove him wrong. Okay. When I sold that home, I reached back out to this guy, sent him the Crain Chicago Business article and said, oh, by the way, didn't know if you saw this sale, kind of like a F you. I remembered this.
Yeah, well, in sports, we would call what he sent you. What would you call
bulletin board material?
Yeah, locker room material. Right. That goes up in the locker room and you circle it and you put a big highlighter on there and you say at the beginning of the season, these guys are saying we can't do it.
Yeah.
So let's go do it.
Now, to his defense, he got back to me and said, hey, great job. I didn't think, but man, that drove me. So that was a record sale.
Yeah.
We had just literally a month ago, I had all-time record sale price for my town that I live in, Wheaton, Illinois, which coincidentally, Brian, 5 years ago, I set the highest sale record ever in this town. And then it got beat 2 or 3 years later, and that bothered me. I was no longer the top record sale in my market. So I'm happy to say we just had the most highest sale ever about a month ago in this town. And so, we had the record sale this year in Naperville, Illinois, the record sale in St. Charles. I had the record sale still in the county called Kane County. So these are all properties,
Not bad for a junior college football player and high school football coach.
Yeah. Right? But that's part of my story. When I go on a listing appointment, Brian, I tell people I'm a former teacher. I tell people I run 11 marathons. I told people, listen, I got a scholarship by recruiting myself. I had no business because I tell that to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, because you want an agent that's hungry. You want an agent that's got great work ethic. You want an agent that thinks outside the box and has never been handed something in their life. And if that's what you want, I'm the right guy. If you want someone that's traditional, I call them traditional Tim, traditional Tammy, I'm not them.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do this. Haas, are you in here real quick before we go to Michael and Suzanne? So how great is Closers Club, right? We have last week's guest. He's on today to support his guy. Can you talk a little bit about Michael LaFido and what you know about Michael?
Man, me and Mike, I call him Renegade, by the way. Hello, LaFido.
What's up, Hosser?
Man, you know what's great about LaFido is we go back, man. Like when I'm listening to him talk, I'm remembering over 10 years ago in Indianapolis being at a Dan Kennedy seminar, and him and I both wanting to do what we're doing, training agents, and we were the ones that were at the seminar, and I don't share hotel rooms with many dudes, but I did with Renegade, man. When we went to a Dan Kennedy event, like we were there to learn, and like just watching him, LaFido, you've been a student since day one. You could always tell the smartest people in the room, they're always at a Dan Kennedy conference. And that's where the best marketers in real estate, I mean, that's where most of us learn. I mean, I see some of you folks in here now that, like Mike Reese, people like LaFido, myself, that would go to Dan Kennedy and learn. And this is over 10 years ago. And listening to your story of how not only did you stay learning based, but you stuck to the script. You've never stopped. And that's what makes you successful is you've been doing this for as long as I've known you. We've had many conversations where things, were challenging for myself or for you. You're always one of those dudes that I could call when, my back was against the wall. There's not many people that I make that call to. I can count on one hand. LaFido's always been that guy. So whether I'm having a challenge in life, we're both, married with kids and family. And at those same stages, he's just been one of those dudes that have, he's always been with me in the fight, and he just never stopped. And I just have tremendous respect for you. And that's why, you make such a difference in the industry, because your roots go deep.
Thanks, brother. That's very nice of you. I appreciate it. And likewise, I think the world of you.
Yeah, I've been on a lot of three-way calls with these two guys, and it's pretty magical. So you guys are a friendship for the ages for sure, and I'm just happy I'm able to call both you guys partners, and it's just awesome that we've aligned forces. It just happens to be over at EXP, but I think the alignment is really between our three lifestyles and our families, etc. So great testimonial, Haas. I want to do this. So we again, real quick, everybody. This is Closers Clubhouse. We do this every Wednesday. We bring up the best guests. We got the best audience. We got the best moderators. It's guaranteed to be the best 90 minutes of your week or your money back. And to date, so far, 0 refunds. Okay. Nobody's ever asked for a refund. My brother's maybe hinted at it, but I think he's good. But but I want to do this. I want to mention, right, Matt? Matt's like, yeah, I don't know. Last week wasn't so great. Your mic was a little off. But so Michael Banovic, also in the luxury space. He's a co-host or co-chair for the Paradise Valley Luxury Home Tour. Suzanne Fuqua is no stranger to luxury home sales. She's probably sold close to $500 million in luxury. Michael, and you guys are going to be Michael's going to be hosting your event, LaFido, next week that we're having. Michael, what are your thoughts? What kind of questions do you have for Michael?
Hey, Michael, how are you? Really excited to meet you for the first time next week at the Capitol Grill event. It's going to be amazing. First question I had, I think a lot of real estate agents listening in are either successful or want to be more successful. What is something that you can give tangibly right now to agents that want to get into the luxury market and help them really blow out their business?
They have to believe they can do it, first off. So, if you don't have that belief, I can give you all the tools, the resources in the world, but I don't believe you'll be successful without that belief. So they really need to grow their knowledge. And so I believe when an agent grows their knowledge, their confidence will grow. And so what are some ways they can grow their knowledge? Well, being on this clubhouse, for example, what are they reading? What are they listening to? Are they going on these Paradise Valley home tours where they're familiarizing themselves with the product? One of the best ways for me when I got my real estate license, again, I'm a terrible test taker. And I'll never forget one of my mentors, he was a licensed real estate agent. And I kept on saying, man, if Coach Jack can pass that test, and that was no disrespect to him, but I'm like, if he can pass that test, so can I. And so what happens, Michael, is if agents go to some of these broker tours, if they see some of these listings, they're going to be like, man, if she can do this, so can I. Now, again, there's some rock stars out there that you're going to be intimidated by, but focus on, the positive, on the things that you can implement. And so I tell agents all the time, grow your knowledge and your confidence will grow. If you're more confident, Michael, you're more likely to step out of your comfort zone. If you're more confident, you might go on that appointment in that price point or that zip code that you've never sold before. And so I think that's key. That's like the baseline. That's like the foundation for an agent to break into luxuries.
Something I did, a little trick, I think this is very Michael LaFido-ish, is that back in the day, I used to get a lot of multi-million-dollar buyer leads, right? And a lot of times I'd never communicated with these people. Like they would just, ping my website, sign up for some information, and I'd never hear from him again. But at some point, I'm like, well, these people are going to start coming to town, and they're going to want to know about these $1 million properties in Scottsdale, and I better start getting my nose in a few of these. So I used to call the listing agents of all the $1 million properties and say, hey, I have an out-of-town buyer. Do you mind if I come over and preview the home for them and get some photos first? Before, like I'm looking at 20 homes. I'm trying to whittle this list down to 5 or 10. I want to make sure your home makes the cut. Now, did I have to have a buyer to have them let me in? No. In most cases, 99% of the time, they're going to let me in. Now, if you're talking about a $20 million mega mansion, they might want proof of funds or something like that. But listen, there's no shortage of $1 million plus homes that are probably vacant, sitting on the market for multiple days, and they would kill to have an agent say, hey, I want to preview this home for an out-of-state multi-million-dollar buyer. So now you're getting your nose in the door. You're walking through these $1 million homes. You're looking at the Cantera fireplace. You're looking at the hot tin roof or whatever, right? The leather bound roofs or whatever. So you're starting to get to familiarize yourself with your inventory, with the product, and guess what's going to start to magically happen? Michael, what's going to start happening to them? They're going to start growing their confidence, right? Because their knowledge of the interiors of these homes is going to expand, and thusly, if you follow Michael LaFido's coaching, if you grow your knowledge, your confidence will grow. So that's a great way to get into these properties. Go ahead, Banovic.
I was just going to say, Brian, you bring up a good point. It's important to be around wealthy sellers and wealthy people and kind of learn how to talk to them, because the way they converse and the way they start trusting people is a little bit different. And when you start touching that side of the world and start being in these, multi-million-dollar homes and talking to the people that not only represent them, but own them, the whole mindset of which you interact with them changes. And as LaFido said, and you said, Brian, the confidence of which you're able to connect with them becomes that much greater.
Yeah, and it doesn't take 10 years. Go ahead, Suzanne.
I'm pulling away from the gate here, so I want to just jump in quickly. Is that I've sold 3 houses, high-end houses in the last couple of years. And the first one, I met the people in a hotel lobby bar. And yes, conversing with them and know how to do it is one thing. It is.
Busted. It is. She's like, listen to herself.
Okay, anyway, I'll have to cut off. I'm sorry. I have to cut off.
This could be our first ever arrest live on Closers Club. That's why Suzanne's the best, folks. I mean, she literally will put herself in harm's way just to create great content. All right, Suzanne, we get it. Don't you'll come back next week and tell us your anecdote, okay, Suzanne? Love her. She's the best. But listen, let's do this. I want to save a little time, go around the room. Let's see. Anybody want to pop their mic on and ask Michael a question? I pulled up some great guests. Some people know you. Some people work with you. Go ahead.
Hey, Michael, I actually had a quick question for you. So I tend to work with some luxury and sellers, but where I'm struggling is getting them to flip the script and open up that checkbook on the back end and, maybe diversify that money into new investments or get a new property. So how are you kind of like setting the tone to figure out what to do with that money once it comes in for your sellers?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for me, I'm based in Chicagoland, and unfortunately, a lot of these high-end sellers are getting out of state, right, because of high taxes and mandates and everything else. But having that conversation with them, just, let's fast forward, Mr. Seller. When this home sells, do you know where you're going to be? Are you going to be staying local? Are you going to be looking out of state? Do you have another property that you've already purchased? So having those conversations with them to figure out, what that next chapter looks like, right? And so planting that seed where when that does occur, when I do get your home sold, Mr. Seller, although I'm only licensed in Illinois, I have some top agents that are in my network that are in Scottsdale, and I'd be glad to make an introduction to you or wherever it is they're going. And if it's local, letting them know, hey, once we get your home sold under contract, we have access to all properties, whether they be listed with our company, another company. Matter of fact, we have access to, they call them pocket listings or private listings, homes that aren't even on the computers we can get you through before others have access to them. So that's like the unique value. That's the hook, right? That's the hook that they want to hear, because if they're looking to buy, they want to go through properties before others find out about them, not the recycled properties that everybody else, didn't want to make an offer on. So that's part of your unique value proposition, that you're not just a marketer, you just don't represent sellers, but you can help them find that perfect property once they're ready in the next phase.
I just read this in Success Magazine too. There's an actual, if you guys, and I know a lot of EXP agents, we get a free copy of Success Magazine, and there's a whole article on how to break into the luxury space. And it's like whether you're selling luxury watches, luxury cars, whatever, but there's a key line in there that talks about how at some level for sort of the luxury buyer, money stops being important. You want to talk about a little bit about that, Michael? Like, like the price is not as important as other intangibles. Would you agree, Michael?
And this is where Michael talked about it earlier, but the mindset, being around high net worth individuals, the reality is, do they think differently? Do they have different expectations? Absolutely they do. But just like in the movie Hoosiers, when that basketball team from a small town, the coach went out on the big gymnasium floor and measured the rim to the floor, and it was still 10 feet, like every basketball hoop they shot at that year in their small town. Same idea. High net worth individuals, like my Dan Kennedy used to tell me, they put their pants on the same way you and I do, one pant at a time. When they come home, their dog still poops on their floor just like your dog and my dog. So sometimes we can over intimidate ourselves and think that's totally different, and that holds us back. So just get yourself out there, go to the country clubs, go to places where these high net worth individuals are, have cocktails, play golf with them, go to Chamber of Commerce events that are in these communities where the high net worth individuals, and you'll grow your knowledge and your confidence. But my point being, have those conversations with them.
Okay, go ahead. Hey, Brandon, go ahead, brother.
Hey, I'll jump in with a question if Michael, so thank you again for the time here today. It's a great clubhouse, Brian, always, every single week, brother. But I've heard a lot of people who are agents that are involved in the luxury space talk about creating an experience for luxury clients and how important that is, in the sense of kind of how a company like Mercedes or Rolex, right? It's not just about the product. It's very much about the experience. Could you talk a little bit about what you do to create that experience for your clients?
That's a great question. Part of the experience is that white glove, that silver platter, customer service, right? So right now I'm selling a home for a former high up executive at Navistar. I mean, you go through his home, and in his lower level, he's got pictures with every celebrity, every, key athlete, former presidents, etc. And the guy plays golf more than you and I probably, go to the grocery store. My point is, he's never at home. He's always traveling. And so knowing that you're going to have to almost be like a concierge, almost like a property manager, you're going to have to go above and beyond and do some things that maybe in the past you did, but maybe you're not doing them anymore, or maybe you've never done that. So the experience is part of it. And knowing that they're used to that. They're used to people taking care of their dry cleaning. They're used to people maybe even shopping for them. They're used to that Ritz-Carlton experience. And so that is something that is kind of the default. You have to go into it knowing that. And then you can always turn it down a notch if they say, hey, that's not necessary, or you don't have to do that. But you almost have to lead with that Ritz-Carlton experience. So that is kind of a prerequisite, in my opinion.
What are some of the examples or practical implementations of that you utilize, if you'd be willing to share?
Yeah, practical is communication, right? I mean, you have to communicate with them the way they want to be communicated with. So that's no different than any client, whether that be phone call, whether it be text, whether that be in person. So communication is key, ongoing communication, trying to navigate them through the process before the turbulence. So, Mr. Seller, your home is under contract now. Here are the next steps. Being a liaison and a great communicator is number one. Again, on the buy side, trying to rearrange things that are, completely different, unique. Negotiating for them, perhaps experiences part of the deal. I like doing things behind the scenes where I would perhaps get them in rounds of golf at the local country club that they're looking to purchase in, things that they weren't expecting, and so if things don't work out, and I try negotiating it in for them, they're not disappointed. However, if I am able to get some extra things that they weren't expecting included, that's part of that pleasant surprise and that over deliverability.
Hey, real quick, we got another call back here. We've got the amazing Sharon Lecter, who was a guest a couple weeks ago. Sharon, I want you to ask a question, or maybe opine real quickly. I'm from the other side of the equation, right? Here's Sharon Lecter, who's one of the preeminent wealth and education authors of our time, and she's bought and sold probably many luxury properties. Sharon, what is a luxury buyer or seller looking for, and what would be a question you would ask somebody in sort of a Michael LaFido situation, if you're able to throw your mic on?
Certainly. Thank you, Brian. Hello, Michael. I think one of the biggest, Michael just said it, from a buyer perspective, making my life as easy as possible and as convenient as possible. So not just say that this needs to happen, but this needs to happen with this house, and here are 2 or 3 references that I can provide you, and would you like me to contact them? The luxury agents that I've used in the past have all really catered to to our needs and to what we're looking for, so that because we are, as Michael was sharing, I'm constantly to and from airports and don't have a lot of time to do the research. So if I'm willing to pay an agent more than the standard commission if they make my life easier, and that's you provide that service and it comes back tenfold.
I love that. And that made me think of too. I remember Grant Cardone was talking a few, months or so ago, and he was talking about the agents that he picks. And he said the agents that he works with, they never talk about their problems. They never say, hey, my car was, I had a flat tire. Sorry, I'm late. They don't burden the buyer or the seller with all of their personal issues. They just keep it light. They keep the ball moving. What Sharon just mentioned is such a great, shorten the steps, take things off of her plate so that she doesn't have to. I can't tell you I went from pressing my nose up against the window of luxury homes to now I'm building multiple luxury homes and buying multiple luxury properties. And it wasn't over a 40-year period. I'm talking over like a 3-4 year period. 4 years ago, I was, on the outside looking in, and now I'm on the inside looking out. And I got to tell you, the people I work with and want to work with, and the agents and the sort of the support personnel that I'm bringing into our businesses and our lives are very much what Sharon just said. They are taking things off our plate. They're proactive. They're, they're anticipating, my movements, my needs, my desires. And so I'm not sitting there scratching my head going, where is this person? Where's the information? And as soon as that buyer or seller, especially in that luxury space, starts asking where you are or thinking about, things that they need from you, you're probably 1 foot out the door. Wouldn't you say, Sharon?
Well, that's absolutely true. I think, you obviously as an agent, you're in the service business. And so I'm going to call somebody back that makes my life easier. And I think it's important. It's all, I teach the power of association. You want to have somebody who knows the area. They know the contacts. They have all of the connections for if something needs to be done in the house, or and they come to you if you have. When we originally moved to Arizona, our kids were in schools. Our agent could tell us exactly what schools, how they ranked in the state, what the private school options were, so that there were those kind of things. So they knew ahead of time what kind of questions I would have. I wanted something. I gave them some parameters. I wanted to be relatively outside the city bowl, but close enough to get to the airport. And so they looked at the school systems, and they were able to give me parameters that I was looking for, so I didn't have to do it on my own. I think it's really important to know that that's, that elevates somebody. They're going to be a repeat agent for me because they took the time to address issues that they knew would be important to me before they even talked to me about it.
Yeah, that's, what Sharon says is spot on. I mean, again, if you want to be a trusted advisor versus a salesperson, because there's a difference. A salesperson wants to close the deal, right, so to speak. An advisor, a consultant might say, hey, Sharon, this house is absolutely amazing. Maybe Sharon sent it to me and I'm her agent. And I'd say this house is absolutely amazing. But based on what you've told me before, you want to be backed up to an open field. You don't want to have neighbors. This home is backed up to a neighborhood or whatever it might be. And so it's been on the market for some time and it hasn't sold. And I think part of the reason it's been on the market is for those same reasons. So I'd be happy to show it to you, but everything you've told me up to this point, I don't know if it's the exact location you're looking for. And that's what a trusted advisor would do. And that's how you earn the respect and the referrals. Again, Sales 101 says, if someone wants to buy something, sell it to them. But in that circle of trust with high net worth individuals, you want to do your due diligence. You want to preview these properties. And more importantly, you have to look at it from a different perspective.
And the reality is most real estate agents, by the way, can't afford to live in these luxury homes, whether it's, they just haven't built up a high enough net worth yet, or they maybe write off too much of their, their income and tax write-offs or whatever. So, a lot of luxury agents are experts on things they can't personally afford, so you don't have to be a wealthy person to understand the mindset of a wealthy person, right? So I love that. Again, we're at the top of the hour here, and I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping. Again, let's reset the room. If you pull down on your Closers Club, it'll kind of refresh all the guest speakers. If you like what you're hearing on stage, if you like what you hear from Michael LaFido or Sharon Lecter or Haas Pratt, and by the way, I mean, is this the best freaking clubhouse in the world to have all this amazing brain trust in the real estate and health and wealth space? And so again, every week we do this. Wednesday, 7 a.m. Pacific time, 10 a.m. East Coast, guaranteed to be the best 90 minutes a week, your money back. And I want to keep going around the room. I pulled up a lot of people. We've got, Cody McCarthy up here. We've got Bobby Jones. We've got Brian Hisse. We've got some amazing folks. David's up here. Andrew Balderrama, Mercedes. Who's got a question for Michael LaFido?
Hey, Michael, I got one real quick.
Go ahead.
By the way, good morning, my friend. So when going on your listing presentations, what are some of the things that you bring or do that you could say you stand out from all the other agents?
A great question. That's actually one of our module items in our designation. Module 6 is talking about how can you get that seller pre-sold on you before you actually show up. So I'll give you the simplified Cliff Notes version. Number one, I'm a huge proponent in video. So I'll send them a personalized video with a pre-listing digital package with some additional assets. And so I use a service called Share Kits, SHARE Kits, KITS. You can go to sharekits.com. It's a great resource. It's $20 a month. Basically, if you were to ever send something to a client with a bunch of PDFs and attachments, that's the old way of doing something. I believe Share Kits is the elegant, differentiating way of doing it, and you can go to it. But basically, hey, Josh, looking forward to seeing you on Saturday. Before our meeting on Saturday, Josh, do me a favor, click on this link here to take a look at some of the other things that I want to go over on Saturday's appointment. So it's differentiating myself from the other agents he's probably interviewing before Saturday. I'm pre-selling my services ahead of time. He's going to be pre-sold on me. And then on the actual listing appointment on Saturday, there's several things you can do. I've told agents, if you're a female and you're newer to luxury, bring a male. If you're a male, bring a female. If you're a younger agent, bring a seasoned veteran. If you're an older agent, bring a younger agent and show up differently than the competition. If you don't have that portfolio of sales. For me, I have that portfolio of sales. So I no longer bring a stager, but I used to show up with a stager on the actual appointment to bring additional value and to differentiate myself. For me, I show up solo. I look the part. I'm not a suit and tie guy, but a nice sport coat, collared shirt. I do my due diligence before the appointment. I Google them. I look them up. I look up their LinkedIn. I look up Facebook. I try to find out as much about them as possible from a DISC personality profile standpoint. Daniel Kahneman, who was a Nobel Peace Prize winner, once said, people would rather do business with someone they like and they trust rather than someone they don't, even if that likable person is offering a lower quality product and service at a higher price. Now, of course, I want to offer a higher quality product and service, okay? But I want to be likable. That's what Daniel Kahneman said. Be likable, and part of the reason you'll be likable is if you find some common ground with them. You ride a Harley Davidson, they ride a Harley Davidson. You went to University of Notre Dame, they went, whatever it means, that's called affinity.
Yeah, do your homework. Like, look them up on Facebook. Research them. I had Michael coached me up on my listing and my presentation, and this guy was $1 billion. He was a mega mogul. I mean, this guy was multiple $1 billion. He was in his 80s, but he was a logistics guy from Canada, and me and my partner were doing our homework. We figured out he's kind of a blue collar guy. He's not going to be impressed with all this other stuff. He's kind of a roll up his own sleeves and do the work himself guy. So when he brought up, how it was kind of grimy and dirty, I said, hey, I'll run a power washer and do it myself. And he goes, that's exactly what I would have done. And I was like, oh, really? It's crazy. I can't imagine. So I was listening to what he was saying. I did my homework, and I knew if I went in there and sort of puffed my chest up and been like, me and my team, and I've got 50 agents, I'll hire a company to have them come over and car. He'll be like, yeah, you're not my kind of guy. He was more of a, roll up his own sleeves and do it himself guy. And so we picked that up, and I think that's why we got the listing. I mean, we beat out Sotheby's, we beat out everybody. Yeah.
That's a great point. So getting back to your question, Josh, those are some of the things that I would do. Is I would differentiate myself before the appointment, at the listing appointment. Again, I like taking the tour of the home early. During the tour of the home, and by the way, I like the seller to be comfortable in their own home. So if I were to walk in and I have some collateral, I'd say, hey, Josh, I'd like to sit down and talk with you and hear a little bit more about your situation. But before we do that, let's take a tour of the home. Where's most comfortable after the tour of the home for us to sit down so I can set my stuff down there? Because, again, I don't know about you, but when Cutco comes to try to sell me their knives, they do their presentation at the kitchen table. I want to be comfortable in my own house. I want that seller to be comfortable. So if he says out back by the hot tub, if he says in the Three Seasons room, if he says in my office, if he says the kitchen table, that's fine. I want them to be comfortable so they don't feel like they're being sold, because nobody wants to be sold. People love to buy, but they hate to be sold. So then when I get the grand tour of the home, I'm building rapport. I'm observing. Is there any deferred maintenance? Oh, I see his plaque on the wall. I'm looking for talking points, but I'm also being very observant.
Hey, Michael. So let me ask you some questions here. So if we got a group of agents, maybe Bobby Jones in Alabama wants to bring you down and do an event. Maybe Trey wants to bring you out to do an event. Jay Enjo wants to bring you out and do some, how can they, first of all, are you willing to do that? Let's say Christina Swires wants to bring you out to.
Yes, he is. Michael absolutely is.
All right. So how does somebody go about booking you, maybe bringing you down, do an event for them and their agents?
Yeah. So, shoot me a note, shoot me an email. Text me, we'll set up a call. So there's an EXP agent out of St. Louis, end of October. She's going to have me come down. We're going to do a designation training down there. And she's also looking at it as a non-recruiting event where she doesn't just want it to be for her EXP organization, but she's bringing others there that she think would be a great fit on her team. So there's a lot of different ways we can do that. But yes, have them reach out to me. I'll give you my cell phone. Shoot me a text. It's probably fastest, and we'll set up a call. 630 674 3488, 630 674 3488, or shoot me an email, Michael at marketingluxurygroup.com. Michael at Marketing Luxury Group. And, in the subject line, just, put something that, stands out, if you will, because I get 200 emails a day.
And then, do you have any upcoming events? I know we just mentioned you're coming out to Scottsdale next week. Where else around the country are you going to be doing stuff that you've already got planned?
Yeah, so I think it's October 26th, I want to say, or 7th. It's that Wednesday in October. We're going to be doing something down in St. Louis that's going to be open to others. So if you want to make a trip down to St. Louis, that's my next.
Meet me in St. Louis.
Yeah.
I'll be there.
So that's our next one.
Gateway to the West. Yeah, that's awesome. And again, you can always hit Michael up on a back channel here on Clubhouse, and I'll show him how to check those later. And of course, Instagram and all the other great ways you can get a hold. I mean, it's almost ubiquitous at this point. If you can't get a hold of somebody, you're doing it wrong. So, well, that's awesome. We got about 15 more minutes or so. I want to keep going around the room. Who else has a question? Alfonso, good morning, sir. Who else has a question?
Yeah, I got one, Brian. It's Brennan Doherty here.
Go
Good
ahead,
morning, Michael LaFido. You the man. Appreciate your book. Got a quick question for you. I love just how approachable you make the luxury game. You, Brian, Sharon, just everybody chatting this morning makes it seem so approachable. I love it. Appreciate it. Loved your story about how these luxury people are just like us. They put their pant leg on one leg at a time. They still got dog poop on their floor in their house. And I thought that was so funny. I actually went to a luxury person's house. A person lives in Huntington Beach on the water, has a yacht and everything. And I saw this dog poop on their house floor, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like, what are you doing? You just left this over here? And at the same time, I saw this yacht club book of contacts on their dining room table, and told him, I made him a deal right then and there. I saw he was like a couple years old. I said, can I please help you with this? I will clean this up for you, but in exchange, I want that old yacht club book. And he gave it to me. I totally did it. And so now I'm kind of sitting on this book. It's got like 1,000 contacts in it. And I'm wondering what your strategy would be to leverage this book in the best possible way. Would it be a weekly email, direct mail? Would you go hyper local with the information? So far, I've kind of just lumped them into my SoCal market report, along with everybody else, but I'm sure you would probably do it differently and more specific, hyper local. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
So that's a huge database and a great asset you have there. And that's, hey, you rolled up your sleeves, picked up dog poop, and you got yourself a great book there. So what I would, are you still in communication with that owner?
Yes. So, he's going downhill pretty quick. He's not doing so good.
Okay. Has he sold his home?
No, it's going to go to his family. It's that listing in particular is off the books, but he unlocked thousands of listings for me, basically.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to say is if he likes you and trusts you, get him to put that down somewhere. Some kind of endorsement would be huge to that database, that book of people, because they probably know him.
Gotcha. I like that.
So hey, I'm not selling my home in the future. My family's going to have it, but if I were, he's the man for the job because of A, B, C. And here's the other thing. So high net worth individuals are so stinking busy. Many times I'll write 2 or 3 testimonials down, and I'll say to them, Mr. Seller, I know you're busy. So I've gone ahead and written a couple. I feel like you've known me for years, and if you were to sell your home, you would probably, hopefully, hire me. It would mean the world to me if you wouldn't mind, just saying a couple nice things about me, because I am going to be hopefully marketing to some of the other people from the yacht club, and knowing that they know you, I have a higher probability of them hiring me if you said a few nice things about me. Now, because you're so busy, I went ahead and wrote a couple things down. You can use any of them and just check mark which one you want me to use, or write something differently. It literally would take only a few minutes of your time. I greatly appreciate it. And in return, boom, here's your favorite scotch. Here's your favorite bottle of wine. It's for your time. So you're not bribing them to do it. It's just as a thank you for their time. That would be one thing I would do to get that endorsement, because that is worth its weight in gold. Number 2 is what kind of events, what kind of social gatherings does that yacht club, and do they open it up to guests? Do they open it up to others? Because that's the key, is build relationships and become a face. Maybe you get my newsletter, and now they now that they met you and they get the newsletter, that newsletter means so much more because they had a drink with you. They met you. They played a round of golf. There was some annual charity event that the yacht club puts on, and you bought a table, or you sponsored something, or you were there. So you really have to be present. You have to build relationships. There's no easy button in there. We all want to be able to do a voice blast or an email blast, but it's really about the relationship.
Love it, Mikey. Thank you so much. He'll definitely do that for me. So I appreciate all that. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. And you could even you also have a good clue. They're yacht owners or they're into yachts. So you could also kind of create a campaign around, hey, you know what your yacht's worth, but do you know what your home's worth? Right. Or here are some deep water port homes that are, create like a yacht, because they're going to need a house that has a place close to the yacht club, right? So you could kind of create like a search that targeted specifically yacht owners, et cetera, et cetera. So you do have a little bit of a clue to their mindset.
By the way, great point there, Brian. I like that a lot. Events, be involved. And what I'm about to do is exactly what Brennan should do, or any of you. If you've done something or you brought value, don't be afraid to ask for that. So Brennan, thanks for the shout out on the book. If you like the book, Brennan, I need more reviews on Amazon. So what I just did there is demonstrated exactly what Brennan did to do it. Brennan did a great job for his seller. Don't assume that seller is going to give him a review or leave a testimonial. And so you got to ask for it.
Yeah, consider it done, Michael. Thank you.
Appreciate you.
That's awesome. So I think, let's see, Brandon, you were popping your mic on. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it, Michael, for all the nuggets that you gave. One question was, so of all the platforms you use to contact expired listings and cancels, which one would you consider one of the best?
Well, I know Haas likes Vulcan. I'm a big Red X. I like the Red X. You can go to theredx.com. But the key is in the follow-up. That just scrubs your data, right? So in other words, you pull all the data from your multiple listing service, you upload it into Vulcan or RedX, and they just want to make sure you're not soliciting or doing any calls or mailings to somebody that has their home relisted. That actually happened once to me. We had a little RedX didn't mess up, but our multiple listing service had an issue where they allowed some data not to be exported. So I was sending mailers to somebody that was relisted, and I got my hand slapped with from our real estate board. So make sure, you do your due diligence and you're not calling or sending mailings to anybody that's relisted, Brandon. But that would be, I would tell you the same thing that I would do if I were to go to a new marketplace and I had to break into luxury in that new marketplace as a newly licensed agent in Scottsdale and wherever it might be. I would join a chamber of commerce that services a lot of high net worth clientele and businesses that service high net worth. I'd build relationships with those decision makers, build rapport, and that would be number one. But the other thing I would probably do is I would join, a team that specializes in luxury or hire a coach. But the third thing I would do is I would do some canceled and expireds in that local marketplace. And for me, I would do mailings, direct mail. I would do letters. I would do multi-step sequence. I wouldn't just send one mailer. But that's what I'd recommend. Is getting the data is one thing, Brandon, but what do you do with the data is just more important. And I would do mailings.
Chime in, Brian?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's up, Michael? You kind of answered my question, but I'll ask another one. I'll make a comment then a question. First comment is pleasure to meet you out in Miami, man. Just a pleasure to be around. Anybody in the audience that has not, that they would get a wealth of knowledge by having you come out and speak to them. It was gold nugget after gold nugget. I'm a big fan. We share an interest in sports. I admire you. You keep your kids in football, which builds character. I was scrappy, kind of like you. I wasn't that big, but played college football. And one question is, and you're a man of faith, so any friend of Brian's, always listen attentively. But one question is, do you keep yourself active in sports at all? Do you run? Do you still work out? Because that build, just keeping yourself physically sharp and mentally tough, physically tough, and all that keeps the mindset right. Second thing is, I was going to ask you, is there any fast track way to build that authority? I know you wrote a book, and I know there's no real way to just, it's kind of like a domino effect. You have to build the relationships and all that. But is there something you can do to establish authority on the front end a little faster, such as holding events, or anything like that?
Yeah. So your first question, absolutely. I think you have to be mentally tough, but you have to be in good physical shape. I think that also helps with self-esteem and confidence. I work out at Orange Theory Fitness when I'm not traveling 5 days a week. A lot of people put weight on during COVID. I set a goal to get back to, my playing day weight. And, so I'm in, knock on wood, pretty good shape and pretty healthy. So I definitely think, and by the way, I don't eat the most healthy in the world. I like desserts. I like eating a lot. I like my Coors Lights, but I work out a lot. And so I'm at a good weight.
Now, by the way, Bobby sent me a video this morning of him still doing karaoke drills and high knees in the field with his kids. So he's literally still doing football practice on his own, and he sent me videos. I think that's why he asked that question, Bobby. But because we were talking smack about playing a little one-on-one next time we see each other. So he's trying to psych me out with his training videos.
Yeah, Brian said, "Wow, you're still not going to beat me at basketball."
I keep training. What's part two of that answer, though, Michael?
But part two of that answer, the fast track, right? Everybody's looking for the easy button, but there are some things you can do, Bobby, to speed up that process. The number one way to establish yourself as a leading authority and expert is through authorship, writing a book. But we could spend 2 hours on doing that on this, that could be another event closer club. But most people, let's face it, 99% of people aren't going to do that. So I'm not going to spend much time on that. But the thing that most people can do on here is the second fastest way to establish yourself as an expert, a leading authority, is public speaking. So whether that be speaking at a Chamber of Commerce event, I know, Bobby, you got an upcoming event, looks awesome down in Alabama, hosting an event for other real estate agents that you maybe MC or speak at. Leverage the heck out of that. Have recorded. Have some photographers there taking photos. Maybe get an agent that's leaving the event to leave an endorsement. And you can leverage that on social media, not just to attract other agents to your team, but to differentiate yourself and position yourself as a leading authority. So people on Facebook, if you did a Facebook live stream, for example, people in your database see you speak, or maybe they thought you just sold real estate in a certain area, and they say, wow, I didn't realize you did this. And it helps position yourself as a leading authority. We're doing that next Friday at my event that I'm doing when we're in Arizona. Brian's brother Matt's going to be there and going to get some great footage and maybe some video. And that helps differentiate yourself from the competition, because you can't assume, right? You know what they say about assuming? It makes an ass out of you and me. You can't assume that everybody saw the flyer. I like touching people in multiple ways. A Facebook Live at that event might touch a certain segment of your database, where a posting of the same message might touch people differently. So, you can't make that assumption.
That's great advice. And by the way, this is going to be an ongoing event, and I'll reach out to you to come out and speak, and maybe take you to Alabama game or something.
Definitely get them down. And Bobby, how does anybody do anything, right? How does anybody become authority on anything? And, I'll share a great story I heard recently. This lady was a teacher, and she's a career teacher, and she had an opportunity for whatever reason to learn or to go speak on molecular biology or something crazy thing. And she had no knowledge of molecular biology, but she took her teaching skills and she went out and she self-taught herself everything she could on molecular biology. And now she's the preeminent speaker on molecular biology. So in other words, how does anybody become anything? You just start telling yourself, I'm going to be this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to start doing things that someone like that would do. You start engaging with people, you start going to places that person would go to. And pretty soon, it's not like the next day, but over time, guess who's now the preeminent authority? Look at Michael LaFido, for example, right? I mean, just look at his ascendance to being the preeminent or one of the top 2 or 3 preeminent luxury speakers in the world. At some point, if you heard his early story at the beginning of this clubhouse, he made a decision. I'm just going to start to make this my focus. So again, it's whatever you set your intention on is usually what's going to end up happening. And that also goes back to sort of this idea of trying to do 10 things. Are you doing self-storage and you're doing, starting a home cleaning business and you're doing an auto detailing business and you're going to sell luxury homes? Like, good luck. So, well, this is awesome. I want to do a couple other little housekeeping things. Again, we've got Michael LaFido coming out to Scottsdale next week. It's going to be Friday the 24th. We're going to be doing a little half-day event over at Capitol Grill. So if you want information on that, you can reach out to my brother Matthew or myself or Michael. We've got a great Eventbrite for you. There's a small ticket price, but that'll cover the lunch and et cetera, et cetera. So we want to make sure if you have an opportunity, get there next Friday. And also, I want to make a kind of a preview announcement for Closers Club. Michael Banovic and some of the other co-hosts are going to be doing a after Closers Club show. We'll make some announcements soon, but we'll be probably rolling that out in the next couple of weeks because we feel like, we do 90 minutes with a great guest, but then a lot of people are left asking questions, want to talk about some stuff. So I think Michael's going to step up and host a after show, and we'll just keep this room open for a little bit of time after our usual 90 minutes. And that way we'll let more people engage, more people ask questions, comments, talk about sort of recapping what the guests were speaking on to that day. So I just want to make that announcement. And we also have some great stuff coming down the pipe. And we're also going to be trying to expand into other shows. For example, we might be looking to do a luxury listing show, or we might be looking to do some other stuff. So if you've got an idea for a show, or you want us to help you create more programming, that's something we're going to be putting some time and energy into. For us at Culhane Groups at EXP, we're going to make the next year the year of the leader. So that's going to be our focus. And we really want to start to elevate the leaders within our organization and put the guys and girls up on the stage so you guys can shine. So that's that. And Michael, we're at the top of the 90-minute mark. Want to share any little nuggets or take us home, so to speak? The floor is all yours, brother. Go ahead.
I appreciate again the opportunity, guys. We all have ups and downs in our life. There's turbulence throughout the day. When you wake up, there's turbulence. I mean, it's going to happen. You got to focus on the positive things. You just got to keep focusing and moving forward. I look at life kind of like a Fortnite game. My kids play Fortnite, and it's one of the most sold video games of all time. You're going to get kicked in the shins in life. You're going to get knocked down. There's going to be turbulence. You got to focus on what you can control. Stay positive, guys, and keep raising the bar in real estate. And like I like to tell people, prove others wrong.
Well, that's it, folks. On that note, we are going to wrap today. Michael, thank you, sir, for being on today. I appreciate it. It was amazing having Sharon Lecter. We had Haas Pratt. We had some great questions, and we probably didn't even get into, I'd say maybe 5%, maybe 10%.
That's why they have to come next Friday to learn more.
That's right. Come next Friday, and you'll get an even bigger dose of Michael LaFido, luxury listing specialist. And this guy is proving people wrong every single day, and you can too. So thanks, everybody. Appreciate you, Michael. Thanks to all the moderators. Love you guys. Appreciate you. Closers Club out.